welcome to the Creating Ripples podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Zauner. Thank you so much for joining me here today. On today's Ripple reading, we're going to be talking all about owning your story and the power when you do that. Today's quote is by Ilana Van Zint, and this is what she has to say. It's important that we share our experiences with other people. Your story will heal you, and your story will heal somebody else. When you tell your story, you free yourself. There is just so much power packed into just those few sentences. We need to share our stories. That is part of life. We all go through our hardships. We all face adversity, and then we find ways to crawl out. We find ways to break out of that shell. And when we overcome that, we're able to look back and see the power that we hold, to see how brave, courageous we can be. And when we tell our stories, that helps us to become free. That helps us to embrace who we are because, right, our story is us. Our story is our past. It's where we've been. It's shaped us into who we are right here, right now. And when we're able to truly own our story, we're able to also help others to own theirs. You should never be ashamed of where you've been. That doesn't always mean, though, when I'm saying to share your story, that you have to expose every nitty-gritty detail, right? There's a difference. There's things that you keep private, but if there's things that are personal to you, the chances are they're also universal to other people, and other people need to hear what you have to say. And exactly what she says in this quote is, your story will heal you, and your story will heal somebody else. And that's what I want you to think about. Think about your story. Think about where you've been. What has shaped you into the person that you are right now? Look back at your past, the challenges that you've overcome, the growth that you've had, the accomplishments that you've achieved, and then share that out. Share your experiences, share your story, and it is going to help somebody else that needs to hear where you've been, that needs to hear your story. And the last part she says is, when you tell your story, you free yourself. So when we tell our story, you are embracing all the parts of who you are. And there is so much power in that. When we are able to own our story, we are letting ourselves process what we've been through. We are letting ourselves process where we've been. And that in turn makes us so brave, and it frees us because we're embracing who we are. There's nothing holding us back anymore. We're stepping out into the light as our truest and whole selves, and we're showing up in this world to help others to see that they too can share their stories and make a difference, but they too can own who they are. And when we all show up and we get a little bit braver and we start to be a little bit more vulnerable and authentic, and we own the parts of us that maybe are not always easy to own and maybe aren't always easy to share, that's what starts to form true connection. It creates freeness in our society, it creates freeness in our culture, and it brings us together. All right, so my challenge for you is to take a moment, look back on where you've been, where you're going, and look at your experiences, maybe write them down. And then ask yourself, how can I start to share my experiences? How can I start to share my story with others? And it can feel scary, fear can come up, but then think back to what she's saying. When we share our story, it's going to heal somebody else. It's going to help somebody else. Your story can be what helps someone else get through whatever they are going through right now. All right, so take a little bit of time and think about that, and let's go out and start owning our stories all together. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whenever it is that you are listening to this podcast, and I will see you on the next episode. Until then, let's go out and start creating ripples.